Good morning, everybody. Hey, yesterday, when I did my second stream in the afternoon, a lot of you were there. I was talking about, a lot about the protests, in Portland and Seattle and Chicago and all over the country. And I was thinking about this while I was doing the thread. It's like a lot of these people have really no idea what they're protesting anymore. Or, because really the protest began as related to the death of George Floyd. And, people were trying to relay that or not relay that. What am I trying to say? They're trying to compare that to other police killings over the last several years. All these high profile police killings, some justified, some not, but have all been a part of the popular culture as far as what's happening in the U.S. This I don't want to call it a myth, but this idea that police are killing people left and right. And so yesterday also, if I hadn't mentioned it, was the day of the so-called general strike, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, because it seems that a whole lot of these protests aren't talking about so much police brutality. They're talking about a whole lot of other things that are piggybacking on the backs of black people that have nothing to do with police brutality. So that's what we're going to kind of highlight a little bit today. Plus if I have time, we'll get into some other news of the day and obviously our daily Twitter trends that aren't always daily anymore because I run out of time sometimes. But yeah, it's just an odd thing that we do. I gotta fix something before I play the intro, though. I just realized that I don't have. Where is it? Hang on a second here. It just dawned on me that I still have the wrong Morning Night Live intro. Well, what the hell happened here? There should be, let's see here. Now, see, this is me making, you gotta watch, I'm making sausage here. I don't know why it's gone. That's weird. I have outros. Well, let's try this one. Play the intro, Johnny. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawg Knight. Stop the music. When things go wrong, they just go wrong. All right. As always, before we get the show started, I'm going to say hi to the people who came to the chat early, which includes the person who was here first, someone I see occasionally, and I'm so glad that you're here. Zero the Hero got the bell today. Congratulations. Also, good morning to Mike Savage, DI Freighter Watcher, Select a Boy.
Yeah, boy.
Advocatus Diaboli, the Devil's Advocate, Richo, my friend from down under. Hey, Larry. I always love saying it that way. Good morning to Tyler F. Let's see. Is that everybody? Hey, Shio, what's up? Shiograd's here. Maddie's here. Renovacio's here. Good morning. And people are rolling in slowly. Grilling Pirate Pete, Dark Isle. What's happening? All right. That's what it's going to be for now. So, and just a reminder, if you like what we do during the show, hit that thumbs up sometimes. Also, please share the stream out. Some of you have already done that. And you can do super chats through the Streamlabs link in the description down below or in the chat. This show is sponsored by viewers like you. Support the show with your donations and have your super chats read live on the show. Click the link in the description and in the chat or wherever. There's a super chat link there somewhere. Also, when I have it really promote it at all, and it just dawned on me that this is now a thing. If you go to my PDawgNight.live website, I have created my first merch. The first merch from PDawgNight.live. If you go on the tab, in fact, I'm going to show you a couple items before we move on. As soon as my site pops up here, I have merch. The very first thing I've designed, I'm sure there's probably better ideas, but this is the one that I've been thinking about almost since the beginning of the year. And my very first merch on the screen. Wait a minute, let me get it on the full screen here. I have the official PDawg Night 2020 FFS coffee cup, t-shirts, and hat. And you can see them there. I'll move this up so you can see all of the items. Those are the only items I have so far. I also have some items on Teespring. I have a mask, COVID mask, and another different coffee cup there. But anyway, you can go to PDawgNight.live, hit the merch tab. I'll have more stuff here eventually, but this 2020 FFS cup pretty much describes everything you can think about in 2020. So there you go. Anyway, so you can, like I said, that's at the PDawgNight.live. PDawgNight.live. It's in the description. It's the same place you go to do super chats and or check out what's happening on the website, which there's not a whole lot of that website, just enough to tell you about the show and whatnot. So anyway, let's get into the topic of the day, because if you weren't aware of this, yesterday was the strike for Black Lives, right? The strike for Black Lives. Now, you may not have heard of this event, but apparently thousands of workers across the United States yesterday planned to walk off the job to participate in the strike for Black Lives, protesting against systemic racism and economic inequality. Now, here's the description. This is the description of yesterday, because this is yesterday's article. Labor unions, along with social and racial justice organizations from New York City to Los Angeles, will be participating in a range of planned actions, reported Fox Business, where work stoppages are not possible for a full day. Participants will either picket during a lunch break or observe moments of silence to honor Black lives lost to police violence. So they are honoring it. Look, it's one of the rarest ways Black people lose their lives. But it is, and in some cases, there is just sometimes it's just wrong. It's unlawful. There's certainly mistakes that officers make, but not always. In fact, it's rare. It's extremely rare. Most lives lost to police violence are usually in the middle of a crime. People who are wielding weapons, people who are aiming to hurt officers or another person. And then there are the rare events where people's lives are lost in terrible ways, as in the case of George Floyd. Although there is some new information about that case that I just don't think people need to hear at this point. But, So anyway, among the strikers will be essential workers, nursing home employees, janitors, delivery men and women, fast food, rideshare, and airport workers are also expected to take part in planned events. Now, we'll talk about if they did in a minute. Organizers of the protest said the demonstration will be a watershed moment for highlighting the dignity of Black lives in all aspects of American life. In my Black life, the dignity of my life is how I live my life, how I provide for my family and help provide, Laura and I, the lady boomer, provide a home that our kids grew up in, and living my life day to day as a good person is how I respect the dignity of my black life. But the strike, okay, got it. So quote, "We are building a country where Black lives matter in every aspect of society." If Black lives didn't matter, where'd all these protesters come from? I mean, literally, if you look at these protests, especially in some of these cities like Portland. Remember, I like to use the Where's Waldo analogy, because in Portland, as you watch these protests, aka riots, as they turn into every night, you barely find a black person in the crowd. It's like playing Where's Waldo. I've said this before. So if Black lives don't matter, where are all these white people coming from? And, an officer killing a person in the line of duty. Now, if it's a case like George Floyd where the officers are arrested and charged with murder, although I think Keith Ellison might be trying to fuck that up on purpose to cause more chaos. But anyway, did the Black lives matter? And if you watched my show the other day, was it yesterday? What day? What we watched Don Lemon's clip talking to Terry Crews. This Black Lives Matter movement only means some Black Lives Matter, right? Because it's not about all Black lives. Don Lemon's literally, well, not literally, didn't say the exact words, but specifically implied that Black Lives Matter is only about the police brutality. Black lives, the people, the Black lives killed by police, when that's 0.1% of the cause of death of Black people. But when, especially young men, the cause of death of young men, which is a rare occurrence, when 50% of them, of the deaths, are by homicide, and that's not even close to any other demographic, well then it's clearly some Black Lives Matter. At least this organization, this protest, this whole dust up. But if you ask some of these protesters, and I've seen videos where people are going out in the streets and the protesters are talking about the slaughter of Black people by police, they think it's thousands a year. They literally think that thousands of Black people are being killed by police every year. When even when it's actually maybe 1,000 people total, and maybe 20% of the people killed by police are Black. Now that's too high, but you know what? It's also related to where the crime is. Unfortunately, there's more Black people who live in high crime areas. And guess what? Not all. Some of these people think that all of us Black people live in the inner city in Detroit or Chicago. Guess what? Or that we're all in poverty. Do you know that 75% of Black people don't live in poverty? Middle or upper class? Now, that 25% number is too high, but it was you know why it's coming down? Because we had jobs. Jobs were starting to grow again. Then we had the COVID thing, which kind of fucked things up. But come on. First of all, we are not all the same. And this movement is really, really narrowly focused, but the protesters, the liberal leftists, come to the rescue by adding a few more things to these protests that have nothing to do with it. Good morning, MC.
Hammer time.
Also, good morning, Cynical Lindsay, Gunfox61. Let's see who else showed up. Rolling Bear, what's happening? Truckin' Bear. The Bears are coming. Yes. Hello. And also Chadwick Dupree, what's happening? So anyway, we are building a country where Black Lives Matter in every aspect of society, including the workplace. Well, they kind of do. If black people work in your workplace, they pretty much matter now, don't they? You know, it's like, hey, you work here for a reason. Hello. Said Ashley Henderson, an organizer within the Movement for Black Lives and co-executive director of the Tennessee-based Highlander Research and Education Center. The strike for Black Lives is a movement of reckoning for corporations that have long ignored the concerns of their black workforce and denied them better working conditions, living wages, and health care. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean denied them better working conditions? If the working conditions suck, go work somewhere else. One. Number two, their black workforce. So if, let's say, okay, well, let's talk about, for example, UPS. Everyone who works for UPS works under the same working conditions, living wages, and health care, which UPS provides health care for all of their employees. Now, that's just a benefit of working for UPS. That's why I've worked there part-time for 15 some years. I'm not representing UPS in this show, though. What do you mean? Concerns for their black workforce? Well, corporations have concern for their entire workforce. And a living wage? Did anything in this... Okay, wait a minute. Did anything in this... Did you hear anything about police brutality in here? I didn't. Hello, Maniac Man. Interesting. A moment of reckoning for corporations that have long ignored the concerns of their black workforce and denied them better working conditions. So I'm trying to figure out too. Are there companies that only have only a black workforce? I'm just curious. I don't know what that means, but anyway. At noon throughout the various time zones of the United States, this is from yesterday, workers will take a knee for 8 minutes, the same amount of time that Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin pressed his knee against George Floyd's neck, killing him. Well, at least they didn't say white officer and black victim this time, but it's the Daily Caller, so, they're racist, so they won't say that. This is Daily Wire, never mind. That's Ben Shapiro's joint. Here are the brief list of demands. Oh, they have demands provided from Fox Business. Now, let's see. Government and corporate actions against systemic racism and economic inequality. Economic inequality, isn't that usually a function of choices of people make in life? Because I know some very wealthy black people, okay? For example, when I was growing up, the veterinarian that took care of our dogs, cat, and horse was a black man. And he was very wealthy. He lived in one of the most exclusive, wealthy neighborhoods in Omaha. Now, it's interesting, though, because this is back in the late 60s, early 70s. And when our veterinarian, there's this area called Regency, right? And, Omaha was still a little bit, the whole kind of, it was de facto redlining. I mean, they didn't encourage black people to live in certain neighborhoods, right? And this was one of the new exclusive, huge, hoity-toity neighborhoods they were building in Omaha. And our very wealthy black veterinarian decided he was going to build a house in this area called Regency. It was some nice digs back then, right? And so he buys a piece of land. Actually, he was black, so he had a proxy buyer go out and buy the land, and they built the house. And no one in Regency really knew that he was the guy buying the house, and. Now, this is back when there was actual discrimination, right? Because I've never had a problem buying a house anywhere I've wanted to since I've started to become of that age. But anyway, so he takes the buys this land with a proxy buyer. The house is built, and he always joked because the entire outside of the house was, you know how sometimes a house has a stone face? Well, his entire outside of his house was stone. And he used to joke, he's like, yeah, just in case someone tries to burn my house down, at least I'll have some, I have a barrier of stone all the way around my house. But now, how did he become a wealthy man? Back in the, well, and he was older even when he was our veterinarian. He went in the 1950s when he was in college. He made the choice. He wanted to be a veterinarian. Now, there are not a whole lot of black veterinarians out there, at least not in Omaha. But so he goes to school. He goes to veterinary school, gets his veterinary degree, opens a veterinary practice, puts it right smack in the middle of town. In fact, the area he put his office was, pretty lily white back then. There weren't a whole lot of black people in that area at all. In fact, where it is now, I think the office is still there, but he's passed away since then. But this black veterinarian, and he had another black veterinarian working underneath him, and also he had a white veterinarian working underneath him, and he had his own veterinary office. And every black person in town brought their animals to him because, they tried to help a brother out. But he had what's known as income inequality compared to the people who brought their animals to him. Why? Because the choices he made him very wealthy as a veterinarian. He was a very and by the time by the time of the 70s, he was not just a popular veterinarian among black people. He was a popular veterinarian, period, because he was very good at it. He made choices in his life and became very wealthy. So systemic racism and economic equality, imagine being a black veterinarian in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I don't know what systemic racism did against him. I wish, it's funny because a lot of times when you talk about wealthy black people, you talk about the athletes and the entertainers and the rappers and all that shit. Do you know how many black dentists there are? In fact, the guy who grew up across the street from me, in the neighborhood that my parents basically founded. It was out in the sticks, but it was basically a suburb. But the guy, one of my friends, he was actually more my sister's age, but he became a dentist. Does very well. Has a nice dental practice in Omaha. Black man. Those are the people that I think people should emulate. Black kids should emulate. I have a friend, a guy I went to high school with. Grew up extremely poor, single mother. He played football. He had to borrow cleats from other guys. He was poor, but he was smart as hell. And he was really good at math and physics. And now he's a physics professor at a major university. Systemic racism and economic inequality. That was solved. He moved up the ladder because he was smart and he took it seriously. Other things on this list of demands: increased wages, allow workers to unionize to negotiate better health care, sick leave, and child support. Does this sound like a Black Lives Matter strike? The strike for Black Lives. This sounds like a union protest. The two corporations singled out for the most scrutiny during the strike will be Walmart and McDonald's. That's very interesting. The Walmarts where I live, they already pay more than minimum wage in Minnesota. I think people start there at $12, $13, $14 an hour. And at Walmart, I don't know if anyone here works for Walmart. Walmart does give health care to their employees from day one. Unlike UPS, you have to wait a year. But Interesting. And the other company, McDonald's, okay, which have been accused of racial bias against its workforce. You know, it's easy to accuse somebody of racial bias. It's simple. You just accuse them. As reported by Intelligencer, 3 black McDonald's workers in Lakeland, Florida, filed a lawsuit against the burger chain alleging that their manager, a Hispanic woman, fostered a racially hostile work environment. Wow! 3 McDonald's workers in one location in Lakeland, Florida, filed a lawsuit against the entire burger chain. Let's look something up. I want to see something. How many... Actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, Google. Okay, Google. How many McDonald's restaurants are there in the United States? There are, as if... Wait a minute. Let me look at this real quick. 4 more rows. Oh my gosh. Number of McDonald's in North America. 2019. 13,837 locations in the United States. 18,000 McDonald's. Good morning, Jaeger Pony, my brother. And Grill and Pirate Pete, what's up? So, 3 workers, 3 black McDonald's working in Lakeland, Florida. One location filed a lawsuit against the burger chain alleging their manager, a Hispanic woman, fostered racially hostile work environment. The complaint depicts failures that are core to the McDonald's business model, wrote Intelligencer. A lawsuit at one location out of 13,800 whatever seven. At the bottom rung of the ladder, the chain's fry cooks and cashiers are at the mercy of their managers and franchises. Their low wages keep them desperate for hours and raises, a natural incentive to organize, but also a potential obstacle for workers who need to report abuse. When Booker, Scott, and Moody spoke up anyway, they paid for it. McDonald's tweeted in support of the Black Lives Matter movement early in June as protests mounted over George Floyd deaths. They were one of us. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Alton Sterling. Oh my God. Did any of these people work for McDonald's? I don't know. They were one of us, the corporation tweeted. Here, let's see what they put here in their little video. Let's see what McDonald's, did all these people work? Do they have pictures of them all working at McDonald's at some point? What do you mean they were one of us? He was what? Who? He who? She? What? Did they work for McDonald's? Did all these people work? I don't know. Oh, we see them in our customers. We see them in our crew members. Really? Okay, hold up. Let me go back to some of the names they listed. They listed Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, Botham Jean, Atiana Jefferson, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd. Okay, Trayvon Martin. Tragic case. Trayvon decided to rough up a guy he thought was annoying him and got shot in the process. Awful tragedy. What do you see in Trayvon Martin? Oh, by the way, he was picking up ingredients to make some lean, if you know what lean is. Anyway, Michael Brown? Do you see Michael Brown in your employees? Your employees strong-arm robbed a convenience store and then tried to attack a police officer, shooting his gun in his car. And then when, as the officer tried to get out of his car, he decided to rush the police officer. That's what the witnesses all said. The ones who actually saw what happened. You seen him? Now, Alton Sterling, that's a different case. Is that the one in South Carolina? The guy who got shot in the back? No, Alton Sterling was the guy in New Orleans, right? I don't know. Botham Jean. Now, where's the officer that shot Botham Jean? When she thought she was in her apartment and then shot him thinking he was an intruder. Where's that officer? That officer's in jail. Tatiana Jefferson, I can't remember the details behind that one. Ahmaud Arbery, the jogger who was apparently looking at a house, and the two guys in that case are on trial for murder. Or in fact, the third guy, the guy filming what was happening. And then George Floyd, the officers are on trial going to be on trial for murder. What the hell does this have to do? The McDonald's thing have to do with police shootings? So, and I love this sentence, Intelligencer, the complaint depicts the failures at the core of the McDonald's business model. The McDonald's business model is to make some food that you can pick up quickly, and usually it's entry level, not mindless, but you learn some work skills. That's their business model. Okay, nobody, unless they decide to go in McDonald's management, makes a career of working at McDonald's. Living wages aren't paid at McDonald's because you shouldn't be trying to live off the wage you live at McDonald's. But the more you raise the wages at McDonald's through arbitrary minimum wage laws, the fewer opportunities there will be at McDonald's, because you know what? There are a lot of McDonald's with just a lot of kiosks, right? Tatiana Jefferson, an officer walked into her backyard and shot her through her back window. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was another fucked up case. That one, it was actually fucked up. So was George Floyd. So was Botham Jean. Okay, those were fucked up cases. Okay. The other ones, I watched I've read the transcripts of some of the trials on some of them. But yeah, that one was messed up. And you know what? There are more cases of people being shot through windows of all different races. There are some bad cop shootings in this country. No doubt. But really odd, the ones they chose here. Well, Trayvon Martin's not even a police officer, just an asshole doing his neighborhood watch thing, and Trayvon Martin didn't like the fact that the guy was following him, and by witness counts, yes, he was on top of George Zimmerman beating his ass. And it's interesting. There are people now who even acknowledge that Trayvon Martin was beating his ass and still use that case. But, that was the start of the movement, right? In fairness, PDawg, it's not as if the McDonald's executive board and its shareholders couldn't do with giving the employees a little more pay in their pockets. Well, possibly, but again, restaurants have notoriously low margins. And the reason the executives at McDonald's make so much money, because there's 13,800 and some stores. But when you go, the executive pay, if you divide it up amongst all their employees, it'd probably be less than 50 cents a year. So, it's not like you're, and in a lot of locations, for example, here in where I live, starting pay at the McDonald's that's right up the street from us is $13.50 an hour, because there's a shortage of people who want to work at McDonald's anymore. And so they have to pay more to get them in my area. So, and it's always kids working there. I mean, it's still kids, young kids. And although you see a lot of Hispanic people working at McDonald's too. but it's they're low wage. They're low wage entry level jobs where you learn how to work at a job, and then you move on eventually to work somewhere else. That's where you get paid more. That's and unfortunately, a lot of those types of jobs are going away because they're forcing you to pay more for those jobs. But it's a fair point there, Renovacio. I got you. All right. So about this strike, okay? So now let's talk. We got another article about the general strike yesterday. The strike for Black Lives hits major cities. It should be called Strike for Socialism. Today, over 50 unionized and progressive groups plan to strike a protest of police brutality against blacks and demand of higher wages. In over 100 cities, organizers expected tens of thousands to walk off their jobs in support of the agenda. Their demands, according to their website, are justice for black communities, that elected officials rewrite and reimagine the rules so that black communities can thrive, that corporations take steps to dismantle racism, white supremacy, and economic exploitation, and that every worker has the opportunity to join a union, regardless of their job. Why? Why? Now, I say that as someone who belongs to a union. Not because I have to work where I work, not because I choose to. Although, there are some benefits to it, I admit. Not for every place, though. Strike for Black Lives organizers include the American Federation of Teachers, National Domestic Workers Alliance, Amalgamated Transit Union, Fight for 15, and a union, Progressive Democrats of America. Oh, Fight for 15 and Union, that's another organization. Progressive Democrats of America, and the Freedom Socialist Party. A lot of people piggybacking their ideas on the backs of Black lives. But here we go. The event also urges supporters to take the 8-minute 46-second pledge, in which they may take a knee or have a moment of silence at noon or walk off their jobs, all for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in memory of George Floyd. Senator Chuck Schumer, New York, is set to join New York City strikers. Oh, a Democratic politician? Shocker. Senator Chuck Schumer is set to join New York City strikers in front of Trump International Hotel to pressure the president and Senate to pass the HEROES Act. The bill was passed by the Democratic majority House and provides protective equipment, essential pay, and extended unemployment benefits to workers who have not had the option of working from home during the coronavirus pandemic, the AP reports. The strike also targets fast food corporations such as McDonald's. Striking workers plan to march and rally at the McDonald's in Ferguson, Missouri. I wonder if it burned down. Curious. The city where the Black Lives Matter movement started with Michael Brown's death in 2014. Do you know how many black kids get their start working at McDonald's? I had a couple of my friends worked at McDonald's when they were kids. Companies like McDonald's cannot, on one hand, tweet that Black Lives Matter, and on the other, pay us poverty wages, and fail to provide sick days and adequate PPE, said Angeli Rodriguez-Lambert, a McDonald's worker, union member, and leader in the Fight for 15 group. Lambert also claimed that McDonald's failed to protect us in a pandemic that has ravaged black and brown communities across the country. Now, wait a minute. Do McDonald's only have black and brown workers? It's just a weird flex. People are just riding a piggyback but brown workers, whatever. In Lambert's view, McDonald's isn't doing enough until they bow to all the demands of their black and progressive employees, but Lambert forgets that employees are not forced into employment, and they accept their wages in return for their service and have no obligation to stay if they are unhappy. In Minneapolis, the city where Floyd was killed, nursing home and airport workers will join together to demand $15 an hour wages as a part of the strike. Interesting. The president, of Service Employees International Union, SEIU, also a backer of the strike, Mary Kay Henry said, from our nation's founding, white supremacy and economic exploitation have been inextricably linked. Yes, I suppose. And for the last 60 to 80 years, 60 years for sure, I'd say there's been a lot of changes. If you have to use black and white photos to make your point, you may not be living in the right century. And also, the white supremacy thing always annoys me because there's plenty of white folks that start out in these jobs too. And it's, to me, it's a white majority. Okay. So yeah, there's certainly things that people have to overcome, I guess. Although I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I guess I think about the family I lived in, the people I surrounded myself as I was growing up. It's a strange flex they're doing here. People are able in this country to change their economic status through the choices they make. And I see it all the time. Like I said, now I was adopted in the family I was adopted in. My mother's father, black man, got his law degree during the Great Depression. I tell this story all the time because think about that. A black man getting his law degree in 1933. That's literally the middle of the Great Depression. Now, there had to be a lot of interesting choices he had to make back then, and a lot of major obstacles he had to overcome to accomplish that, and being a practicing lawyer, starting in the 30s during the Great Depression. I think of the man who was our veterinarian. Thank you so much. We got a super chat. First super chat of the day. And it's the top super chat of the day. Thank you, GunFox61. Burger flipping jobs. This is GunFox61. Thank you for the $2. Burger flipping jobs are not worth $15 an hour. You gotta choose words wisely. A monkey or an ape can do it. Besides, high school and college kids take them for summer jobs. Well, yeah, I mean they're entry level jobs, they're summer jobs. I don't know that they're meant to be a living wage job. Because they're not hard to learn. They don't take any major skills, but they give you skills, learning how to work with people, and so they're not meant to be living wage jobs. Thank you, GunFox61. Top super chat of the day. First super chat of the day. Okay. Anyway, so the president said of the SEIU said, from our nation's founding, white supremacy and economic exploitation has been inextricably linked. Today, in this national moment of reckoning, working people are demanding fundamental changes to America's broken system. Hospital workers rising. A Twitter account from Pittsburgh hospital workers backed by the SEIU posted a video of a strike march today with participants holding up signs reading, "Unions for all, yay!" and Black Lives Matter. That would be some Black Lives Matter. Sandra Ellington, a janitor from Ohio, featured on SEIU's press release for the event, said, "Despite all this pain, I'm hopeful because this time is different. This time is a movement. People don't want to say it, I'm not shy. It's a revolution! Yay! Hold on a second. I need to pause for a second. And we're back. Okay. Had a little Lady Boomer had something to talk to me about. All right. Let's see. So the hospital workers rising, a Twitter account for Pittsburgh hospital workers backed by the SEIU posted a video of a strike march with participants holding signs reading "Unions for All" and "Black Lives Matter." Sandra Elliting, a janitor. Okay, I already read that. Another video posted of today's strikes depict hundreds of people in the streets outside of McDonald's in Durham, North Carolina, on their knees with raised fists. You know, I don't think anyone at McDonald's has shot anybody. I'm pretty confident that none of the people at McDonald's. This is what's this about again? What was this about? This is what happened to police brutality. The socialist nature of the strikes are clear from the demands for higher wages and paid leave. For example, Senator Bernie Sanders, a self-described socialist, has promoted policies such as paid sick leave and vacation for all workers and a $15 minimum wage, which is identical to much of the demands of today's strikers. And I don't care if companies want to make that part of their plan. It's great, but the turnover at a lot of these places, especially the McDonald's type, the fast food places where it's a lot of young people getting first-time jobs and things like that, a lot of people don't even last a year because they don't like working. But anyway, some do, some don't. Some then some go into management or do other things. Whatever. The progressive backers of the strike also reveal the campaign's socialist connection, the Freedom Socialist Party. A supporter of the event describes themselves as feminist working class organization fighting for an end to all capitalist exploitation and oppression. We work in labor unions, join in social movement struggles, and take electoral positions and run candidates. Now, that's a fascinating sentence there. Fighting for an end to all capitalist exploitation and oppression. Well, you could. You very well could. So capitalist exploitation, that's an interesting phrase because, if let's say you didn't have companies, let's say you didn't have places to work and things like that. Let's just say everyone had to fend for themselves. What would you have to do to fend for yourself? You'd have to go out and hunt and fish and grow things and do all this other stuff, right? But instead, we use a form of exchange where people sometimes exchange their labor for money so they can go out and buy the shit they want and blah, 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 blah. And in the system in the U.S., there's absolutely choices you can make during your life. And if people would learn that sometimes if you make choices, these types of choices versus that type of choices, you tend to have better lives. Or if you're able to, you can do a lot of great things. I mean, I know that, interesting. I look at my mother that I grew up with, my mom. We have a new super. Thank you for the top super chat of the day. A new one from Truck and Bear. Thank you for the 556. And I notice I have a new alert for that. I have some people shooting 556 rounds. If you think fast food worker, non-management job is a viable career path, you really need to get your head examined because you might be Mentally deficient. Okay. Just that's one way to put it, of course. Prospero, hi. And also Stoner 46, 0046. Is that are you like a British agent? Good morning to both of you. Also, good morning, Cynical Lindsay. It's interesting, though. The socialist nature of the strikes are clear from the demands. I already read that. Progressive backers of the strike also reveal the campaign's socialist connection. We already read that. Socialism has always been used to appeal to the working class to rise up in revolution, and the strike for Black lives is no outlier. Though it seems appealing to many, socialism only ever ends with poverty, misery, and tyranny, wrote American Enterprise Institute scholar and University of Michigan economics professor Mark J. Perry in his essay, Why Socialism Failed. Today's worker rebellion and strikes for higher wages indicate that this strike for Black lives is using the progressive racial justice platform to push its even more sinister one, socialism. So there you go. Oh, 0046 was my first badge number. What, out of curiosity, badge, what did you do for, what badge in what? What did you do, Stoner 0046? Just out of curiosity. Good morning, Cairo Alexander, too. Surely the Rockefellers own all the unions by this point in history. I don't know who owns somebody owns them. I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I belong to a union because I have to work where I work. Although they it's interesting. They have you know what the other thing about this, the one thing that annoys me is public service unions like teachers unions or even police unions, government worker unions, because unions that work for a private enterprise, a corporation, for example, those unions are negotiating with private companies who are out making profits, right? So I can kind of understand the function of unions in those cases, because they're, the corporations make profits, and that obviously the corporations have a obligation to their shareholders, but they also have an obligation to the workplace to make sure that the work environment is, it has to be a win-win for the workers and the corporation, right? Public service unions, police unions, government service unions, teachers unions, or whatever. Who are they negotiating against? Who are they demanding more and more and more from? They're demanding more and more from you, not the government, because the government just represents you, right? They demand more and more from the government, and the government keeps giving them more and more, but they're really negotiating against you, the taxpayer. And so it's not like there's a profit. They just demand more and more and more from you. And so sometimes I struggle with their ability to do things like strike and things like that, because wait a minute, you are in public service in a sense. Now, I don't know. That's a sticky subject for anyone who thinks about unions. All right, let's do this. We're at 9:59. It's 59 after the hour. I've got 1 minute until we start Twitter trends, so I'm just going to do that. There we go. Did my alarm just go off, or did I just shut it off? It must. Oh no, it hasn't yet. It's about to in about 30 seconds. Anyway, paid leave for McDonald's. Most people don't even work at McDonald's for a full year because they're kids and whatnot. Oh, you were a corrections officer. Okay, at Rahway State Prison in New Jersey. Wow, that state prisons are rough places. I think they just about equal footing, just under Satan, both regional managers. I'm not sure what that conversation's about, but anyway, let's get into. I want to do this. What's that? What was that called? What was the name of that strike called? Strike for Black Lives. I'm going to look for that on Twitter. Let's look at that before we go into Twitter trends. But before we do that, I have some thank yous real quick. Thank you to Grill and Pirate Pete, Truck and Bear, and Tyler F, and Cynical Lindsay, Jaeger Pony, for all tweeting out the show today. Remember, you guys kind of control what we do on the Morning Night Live and how we grow, and you help a lot if you can share out the stream, hit the share arrow down here, or you can retweet on Twitter, repost on Minds, republish on Gab, or reparlay on Parler if you're on any of those platforms. I do tweet out the show or whatever, publish on all those platforms. I'm very active on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter if you're interested, seeing what I talk about outside of this show. And then also the super chat link is in the description down below and in the chat, and it's at PDawgNight.live, where you can also find my new merch. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, my first merch is the 2020 FFS collection. I only have 4 items so far, but I'll be adding to this collection. I have the mug, the t-shirts, which you can get in different colors. See the color? You can change the colors of the shirt. You got the snapback hat, and you got the ladies' tee that comes in these lovely shades of green and white. The 2020 FFS collection from the PDawgNight.live website. You can find it in the description down below, and so on and so forth. All right, I want to look at the let's look at this strike for Black Lives on Twitter. See if there's any interesting things that happen. I'll just look at the top items from yesterday. Okay, here's in Durham, North Carolina. Lots of people standing around at a McDonald's. Looks like they're, I don't get it. Why McDonald's? And they painted something on the street. Oh, strike for Black Lives. They got to paint it on the street. I wonder if the city of Durham approved that. And now they're all kneeling. Now, again, as I look at this, okay, let's play Where's Waldo? Oh, there's a black person. There's a couple black people here. But boy, this is a lot of, okay, there are like 3 black people in this crowd so far, but it looks like a lot of white people doing this. So, like I said, sometimes finding black people at these protests is like playing Where's Waldo. Oh, this one has a few more, though. And, okay, so this is in Durham, North Carolina. They're protesting McDonald's at having a, what McDonald's has to do with George Floyd, I still haven't quite figured out, but, you know. All right, so that was the protest in Durham. Let's see. Let's move on here. We'll pause there. Thousands in the Washington Post says, this was from yesterday, thousands across the U.S. set to walk off jobs and strike for Black Lives. Organizers say economic inequality and systemic racism have only worsened since the pandemic. Really? So, before the pandemic, are you saying things were better? Interesting, because I remember that, you know, because who was it? Trump, that's the president, right? Trump, that's his name. Because he was touting, you know, how unemployment was way down, and every demographic, unemployment was way down. That's a good thing, right? But since the pandemic, economic inequality and systemic racism have only worsened. How? How has systemic racism worsened due to the pandemic? I'm just saying, I have to look that up. I'm going to have to look that up. Movement for Black Lives. On July 20th, across the country's workers will rise up to strike for Black Lives and withhold our most valuable asset, our labor. Well, guess what? You know what happens when you withhold your most valuable asset? Labor. You don't get paid for your most valuable asset, labor. In support of dismantling racism and white supremacy to bring about fundamental changes in our society, economy, and workplaces. You know, and when you withhold your most valuable asset, labor, and you don't get paid for your labor, you know what you're doing? What's this word? What did they say up here? You are worsening economic inequality because you're not getting paid. Okay. Poor People's Campaign, which is again, another socialist organization. Even if you can't go on strike or join us in the streets, you can still stand up for Black lives. Take a knee for 8 minutes and 46 seconds wherever you are on July 20th at noon, or hold 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence on July 20th at noon, or walk off your job for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I wonder if anyone got fired yesterday, although I doubt if they would fire anybody. 1,500 janitors in San Francisco walk out as part of a national strike for Black lives. Interesting. A huge number of workers, nurses, fast food employees, Uber drivers, teachers, domestic workers, even Google engineers. Oh my gosh. I don't know how we can do without a Google engineer for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Are going to strike today to protest racial injustice. Racial injustice. Johnny Hellcat, how you doing? Is this one of the flash mobs? No, it wasn't. Dr. Reverend J. Barb, you can't pay people minimum wage for a job knowing it's not a living wage, knowing that a plurality of your workforce is Black, and then come out and say Black Lives Matter. Again, if you're using McDonald's as your living wage, I don't know what to tell you. You don't have to use McDonald's as your living wage. There are places that pay more, give better benefits. Now, you might have to work, because you know what? For example, all right, thank you. I'm going to stop for the super chat. Thank you, GunFox61. With the $2, people used to go to college to get smarter. Now all colleges do is suck out people's brains and teach CCP-approved teachings. Communism, the very definition of failure. 3 gorgeous dams showing signs of cracking and bending. Yeah, that thing's going to go. That's not a good deal. Thank you, GunFox61. So, for example, I work at UPS, right, part-time, and they're always hiring. Now, it can be a tough job. It's not fun work, but it's work. And I know at UPS they start at $15 an hour, and there's a warehouse right next down the street that starts at $16 an hour, and I see another warehouse advertising $18 an hour. I see a lot of places that are hiring that pay their so-called living wage of $15 an hour or more, and a lot of them have benefits. So if you're at McDonald's making $12.50 an hour in most McDonald's around the country, I don't know if there's not many. I don't even know if there are any McDonald's that pay minimum wage. I don't even know, because the labor market got too tight for a while, so they had to pay more to get people to even work at a lot of these places. I know when we were walking through San Francisco last year, down along the wharf, the In-N-Out Burger on the wharf in San Francisco had a big old sign, "We're hiring," starting at $18.50 an hour, because the demand for labor, which is hard to find, to someone to get work at In-N-Out Burger on Fisherman's Wharf, probably makes them have to pay that much to get people to work there. And also the other thing about the minimum wage, the cost of living like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is always talking about $15 minimum wage, $50 minimum wage, $50 minimum wage. Well, she lives in New York City. Get a rope. I shouldn't have said that, but that old, what is it? Is it old? Who is it? It was not old El Paso. Who had that? Pace Pecani sauce. They had that commercial. New York City. Get a rope. Anyway, so she's fighting for 15 in New York City, right? Because the cost of living in New York City is pretty high, so $15 an hour. Now, I don't know if there are any jobs in New York City that pay minimum wage. But maybe there are, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure the McDonald's probably don't, or fast food places, because it's hard to find people to work in those places in that type of area. But so she's fighting for a $15 minimum wage in New York City, which, maybe there are. But let's say you live in like Scotts Bluff, Nebraska. Okay? Is the cost of living in Scotts Bluff, Nebraska to work at McDonald's there, is that $15 minimum wage make sense there versus in New York City? Or Alexandria, Minnesota? Or Minot, North Dakota? Why do we have a national minimum wage? Or why do we have a minimum wage at all? Right now, I can't think of a place in Minnesota that pays minimum wage unless you're in a job that makes tips. Now in Minnesota, you don't get that. They don't have that minimum wage differential. So minimum wage in Minnesota, if you get paid minimum wage in Minnesota, that's every restaurant, every bar, whatever. There's no exception for tipped employees. So they get the minimum wage plus tips. But I can't think of a place that pays minimum wage. Maybe there are. Maybe there are some janitor positions at some place or entry level something, But even like I said, the McDonald's around here, they start at $12.50 an hour, $13 an hour, $14 an hour at some of the fast food joints. So I don't know. You can't pay people the minimum wage for a job. Well, if you lived in Minot, North Dakota, you could, right? I don't know. Oh, Elizabeth Warren. I stand in solidarity with workers who are participating in the strike for Black lives for higher wages, health care, and paid sick leave, and the right to join a union. So this is not about police brutality at all. There's nothing in this strike for Black lives that has anything about to do with people who were killed, other than they took a knee in wherever that Raleigh, North Carolina, in front of McDonald's. I'm pretty sure the manager at McDonald's hasn't shot anybody this week. All right, let's get into the rest of the trends for today before I blow a gasket. Oh yes, on the this is it's almost like it's an op on the Explore tab, leading the leading story, which of course on. Well, here it is. Sexual misconduct lawsuit filed against Fox News. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Ed Henry, and others. I'll get into a second. Former Fox News employee Jennifer Eckert and Kathy Aru filed a lawsuit in federal court on Monday accusing Fox News hosts Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Howard Kurtz of sexual misconduct. The suit also includes previous rape allegations against former host Ed Henry, who was fired from the network on July 1st. So remember, Ed Henry got fired a while back for some sexual misconduct allegations. Well, lawsuit accuses ex-Fox News reporter Ed Henry of rape. Lawsuit here's the CNBC version. Let's read this one. It's interesting. They're trying to get Tucker fired, and they don't like Sean Hannity. This is I got a feeling. I have a feeling about this one that is it's an op. I really do. Lawsuit accuses ex-Fox News reporter Ed Henry of rape, says Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson harassed other women. A bombshell. What the hell happened there? A bombshell. Okay, that didn't work. It'll probably pop up any time now. Anyway, a bombshell lawsuit accuses former Fox News chief national correspondent Ed Henry of raping one woman and says the network's star anchor Sean Hannity once offered $100 to staffers to date a second woman who also accuses Henry of sexual harassment. The suit says that in addition to Henry, plaintiff Kathy Aru was sexually harassed by multiple other men at Fox News, including Hannity, the host, Tucker Carlson, journalist Howard Kurtz. There it is. That thing doesn't work. And network political analyst Gianno Caldwell. The other plaintiff, Aru's former Fox News employee Jennifer Eckert, claims that Henry raped her in addition to committing other sexual misconduct against her. Let's see. They repeat everything in that first line under the key points. So why even put key points up here? Of course, they only want you to read that part. Let's read the rest, though, because this is interesting. Aru had been a frequent guest on Fox News, but the network says she was neither an employee nor a contributor. However, the lawsuit identifies her as meeting the definition of an employee, albeit not a full-time one. Huh. The Manhattan federal court lawsuit. Oh! Isn't the Manhattan, is that the same as the Southern District of New York? I don't know. The Manhattan federal court lawsuit comes 3 weeks after Fox News fired Henry for what the network said was sexual misconduct. So they acted on Ed Henry's sexual misconduct already when it came out, when the news broke, when it was reported. The suit names defendants Fox News, Hannity, Carlson, and Kurtz, and was filed on behalf of Eckert and Aru by lawyers Douglas Widger and Michael Williman. Fox, in a statement, said that an investigation has found that all of Aru's claims against the men, other than Henry's, were false, and that it intended to fight her allegations. The network added that Aru and Eckert can pursue their legal claims against Ed Henry directly with him, as Fox News already took swift action as soon as it learned of Miss Eckert's claims on June 25th. Mr. Henry is no longer employed by the network. She made the claims June 25th. He was fired in just over a week. Henry's lawyer, Catherine Frody, in an email statement said, "The Me Too movement has helped to bring to light a number of injustices in our society, and everyone that has suffered deserves to be heard. This is not one of those cases. The evidence in this case will demonstrate that Miss Eckert initiated and completely encouraged..." Oh, shoot, that thing moved on me. Sorry about that. Where was I? The evidence in this case will demonstrate that Miss Eckert initiated and completely encouraged a consensual relationship, Fody said. Ed Henry looks forward to presenting actual facts and evidence which will contradict the fictional accounts contained in the complaint. That evidence includes graphic photos and other aggressively suggestive communications that Miss Eckert sent to Mr. Henry. The women's lawsuit says that in late June, Eckert's lawyer put Fox News on notice of legal claims against the network and Henry, and informed Fox in graphic and specific detail how Mr. Henry groomed, psychologically manipulated, and coerced Miss Eckert into having a sexual relationship with him. That's a really interesting claim. How Mr. Henry groomed, psychologically manipulated, and coerced Miss Eckert into having a sexual relationship with him. So in their own statement, she was having a sexual relationship with him. That's a weird way to put that. The suit says that Mr. Henry not only leveraged this imbalance of power for control over his victim. Wait a minute, Eckert, didn't they say that she was a frequent guest on Fox News, but the network says she was neither an employee nor a contributor. Okay. That's interesting. What was she a guest for? Anyway. So Mr. Henry not only leveraged his imbalance of power for control over his victim, Miss Eckert, but asked her to be his sex slave and his little whore, and threatened punishment and retaliation if Miss Eckert did not comply with his sexual demands. Really? In this day and age, during the Me Too movement? When did this happen? That's just weird that anyone would even take a chance on doing something like that if it were somehow consensual. Anyway, I'm just curious. And when she would not comply voluntarily, he sexually assaulted her on office property and raped her at a hotel where Fox News frequently lodged its visiting employees, the suit alleges. How did he get in her hotel room? This is weird. It says Eckert was handcuffed when she was raped. Huh. Okay. Prior to violently assaulting Miss Eckert, Mr. Henry took photos of Miss Eckert on his iPhone while laughing. As Miss Eckert pleaded with Mr. Henry to stop and to remove the handcuffs and to delete the naked pictures he took of her without her consent, the suit says. It adds that Eckert believes Henry used the photos as an intimidation tactic to silence her and to be filed away and retained for purposes of blackmail that could destroy her career. It gets weirder and weirder. Eckert's lawyer said that when Fox News terminated Henry, the network purported to take credit for acting appropriately. Well, let's see. She made a complaint. Fox News fired Ed Henry. Are they saying that they didn't act appropriately? I mean, clearly her problem was with Ed Henry. They told Fox News. Fox News fired Ed Henry. What didn't they do? What did they do that wasn't appropriate? I'm just curious. However, nothing could be further from the truth, the suit says. It says Fox knew that Henry had engaged in sexual misconduct as far back as early 2017, when multiple women came forward to complain that Mr. Henry had engaged in sexually inappropriate contact toward them. Did they? Okay. But Henry was not fired or even disciplined after those early accusations, the suit says. The network only fired Henry this month because Fox News realized that it was on the precipice of a public relations nightmare and wanted to get ahead of the suit and be able to claim that it had done the right thing. It had not, the suit alleges. Well, wait a minute. If she made the claim on the 25th... Hang on, Fox News, in a separate statement addressing the allegations that the network knew about prior sexual misconduct by Henry, said there was not sexual harassment claims against Henry at Fox prior to Jennifer Eckert's claim on June 25th, 2020, and they fired him a week later. Okay, interesting. Eckert is suing Fox and Henry for violations of federal sex trafficking laws. What? Okay, that makes no sense. New York State and city human rights laws, and for gender-motivated violence under New York City's administrative code. So their lawyers are just kind of trying to throw a book at Henry. That's interesting. And I don't know what happened. If he did, and he fired him within a week after reporting on the 25th, and they fired him June 1st. I don't know. Did Fox act appropriately? I don't know. Aru is suing on all of the same grounds as Eckert. All of them? Oh, other than the sex trafficking violation. Isn't sex trafficking when you take a person and you actually kind of sell them out like a pimp or something? Who did that in this case? Does anything in that case describe that way at all? That's really weird. That's really weird. Hey, I got to check something real quick just to make sure that everything's going all right here. Yes, we're still going. Okay. It's just weird. My chat froze. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it and we're going to reopen it. Yeah, that's what I thought. That is really weird. My chat completely froze. So we'll pop it back out and see if that works. Give me a second. And... just a second here. And we'll get it back in here. Come on, let's work. Let's work here, gang. Be cooperative. And sorry, gang. Nope, that's not it. I want YouTube chat. There we go. And it's back to somewhat normal here. Yeah, this is really bizarre. And the wording of the claims by the attorneys seem to be really out there. I don't know. Meanwhile, there has been allegations against Joe Biden. Crickets. Yeah, this just is one of those. This just sounds like one of those ops that they're just throwing shit out there because most people aren't going to read the entire article. They're going to read the highlights at the beginning article. That's why I wanted to read the whole thing. So Rue said she was victimized by Henry, who allegedly sent her a slew of wildly inappropriate sexual images and messages. I wonder if they were of the other woman, which are in her possession throughout the first half of this year. Well, Henry got fired as soon as they brought to their attention. Oh, wait a minute. But Mr. Henry was far from the only Fox News anchor who subjected Miss Rue of sexual harassment, the suit says. She was also subjected to inappropriate sexual harassment and retaliation by Mr. Hannity, Mr. Carlson, Mr. Kurtz, and Gianno Caldwell. The filing said that Rue was a relatively regular face on Sean Hannity's show until March 8, 2018. On that day, Mr. Hannity, on the set and in front of the entire studio crew, and completely unsolicited, threw $100 on the set desk. He then began calling out to the men in the room and demanding that someone take Miss Rue out on a date for drinks at Del Frisco's, the suit said. Del Frisco's is a steakhouse in Midtown Manhattan that is a watering hole for Fox News staff whose offices are just across the street from the eatery. Hannity repeatedly yelled, "Who wants to take her out on a date? Take her out on a date to Del Frisco's," the suit claims. Okay. What were they talking about when he did this? See you later, Selected Boy. Thank you for being here. Miss Rue was completely mortified and made clear that she was incredibly uncomfortable with Mr. Hannity's misogynistic behavior by quietly pleading with one of her friends in the room to accept the money so the humiliation would end. Okay, is that sexual harassment? I don't know. Okay, after a December 2018 appearance by Rue on Carlson's show, according to the suit, the host told her he was going to the network's annual Christmas party, but would only be staying for a quick appearance. Following the show, Mr. Carlson, hardly making any effort to hide his intentions, began telling Miss Rue that he would be alone in New York City that night, and specifically said he would be staying alone in his hotel room without any wife or kids, the suit said. Without question, Mr. Carlson was probing to see whether Miss Rue was interested in a sexual relationship. Miss Rue awkwardly sidestepped Mr. Carlson's advances and declined to spend a night at his hotel. Mr. Carlson promptly retaliated against Miss Rue, who was featured on his show only 3 times in 2019. Wait a minute. So she still appeared on his show 3 more times in 2019 after the supposed whatever interaction? And has not appeared once in 2020, the court filing said. And the suit also claims that Miss Rue's appearances on Kurtz's Media Buzz show dwindled after she declined to meet him in the lobby of a Manhattan hotel. Later, Kurtz stated to Miss Rue, in sum and substance, so he didn't literally say this, but this is what her interpretation of. "You're the only woman here who won't come to my hotel room," the suit says. Oh, but they wrote it as a quote. That's what she assumed. Okay, so in sum and substance. Holy shit. The suit also says it is widely documented in the public record that Fox News has not only cultivated and fostered sexual harassment and misconduct, but has consistently accepted and rewarded it. Rewarded it? Rewarded it? Nevertheless, Fox News would have the public believe that it is different a different place from the Fox News that was run by former disgraced chairman and CEO Roger Ailes. Unfortunately, it is actually worse. Fox News said in a statement, based on the findings of a comprehensive independent investigation conducted by an outside law firm, including interviews with numerous eyewitnesses, we have determined that all of Kathy Arru's claims against Fox News, including its management, as well as its host, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Howard Kurtz, and its contributor, Gianna Caldwell, are false, patently frivolous, and utterly devoid of merit. Well, of course, now, to take the other side of this, of course, that's going to be their statement of their comprehensive independent investigation conducted by an outside law firm. They said also, we take all claims of sexual harassment, misconduct, and retaliation seriously, promptly investigating them and taking immediate action as needed. In this case, the appropriate action based on our investigation is to defend vigorously against these baseless allegations. So Ms. Arru's claims all seem to sound like, I don't know. She still appeared on Fox News after the supposed horrific sexual misconduct 3 more times on Hannity, but hasn't been back in 2020. Okay, but now the other ones, the ones against Ed Henry, where Fox fired Ed Henry within a week of the allegations after hearing the allegations. I don't know, people. It sounds like this is gonna get this is it's the full court press on Fox News. They're you know what? I wasn't gonna do this story, but speaking of which, did you know that the New York Times is also planning on publicizing Tucker Carlson's new home? Remember when Tucker Carlson, they had the protesters that had been coming to his house, and they did some damage to his house while he was at work, and his wife was there, and she's hiding in the closet and calling 911, and they're banging on their door and whatnot. In theory, I don't know for sure if they showed damage to the door, but they said there was damage to the door. Well, Tucker Carlson and his family moved. He has 4 kids and his wife. They were getting all kinds of letters at their house, death threats and whatnot, right? Well, Carlson moved, right? Well, apparently the New York Times has decided that they're going to publicize his new home. And I was going to do this article, but I am going to do it now, because it's like they hate Tucker and they hate Sean, and they're the ones who seem to be finding all the bodies. Fox News host Tucker Carlson used the closing segment of Monday night's Tucker Carlson Tonight to blast the New York Times for their alleged plans to write a story about the location of his new home. Last week, the New York Times began working on a story about where my family and I live, Carlson said. As a matter of journalism, there is no conceivable justification for a story like that. The paper is not alleging we've done anything wrong, and we haven't. We pay our taxes. We like our neighbors. We've never had a dispute with anyone. Carlson speculated that the intent behind an article of that nature could only be to hurt us and to injure my wife and kids so that I will shut up and stop disagreeing with them. They believe in force, and we've learned this. PDawg, they are now claiming that Tucker's fans doxed the journalist that was trying to dox him. I know that he's saying that if they do that to him, then there's no reason why he shouldn't do it back to them. I don't know if they've done it or not. The Fox News host recalled November 18 when a group organized by Antifa group Smash Racism DC doxed his former address, then sent a mob to his home while he was at work with his wife, and his wife was at home alone. And that's when they vandalized his house and whatnot. Really dirty by the New York Times if they do this. They know what they're doing here. That's just BS. That's just terrible. Anyway, let's go back. Let's finish up Twitter trends real quick because I'm running out of time. Back to the Explore tab. So obviously that lawsuit is number 1 on the Twitter head. They put and it's funny how they put this on the Twitter header. I wonder why this is on the Twitter header. It's not trending number 1, or at least it wasn't earlier. And it's not even trending in the top 10 right now. But it's on the Twitter header to make sure everybody on Twitter who hits the Explore tab sees it. Trending number 1 is Tuesday Vibes. We'll skip. Boycott MLB. Apparently, some national or Major League Baseball teams are allowing players to kneel, and they are doing it. I'm just telling you why it's trending. That's the whole conversation is going to be a shit show. I think it's silly that players are kneeling during the national anthem, but they have their reasons. I don't care anymore. As much as I think it's misguided, and also they're protesting police brutality, and while police brutality is an issue, it's compared to other issues that we have, pretty small. But it's certainly it's the biggest topic of the day. It's the most publicized topic of the day. Check your DMs, dude. More New York Times story. Okay, I'll check my DM. I see one there. We'll check it. We'll do that last if I have time here. Robin Williams is trending. Interesting. Why is Robin Williams trending? He would have been 69 today. It's Robin Williams' birthday. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. It's unfortunate that he went out the way he did. Just had some mental issues and took his own life. So we'll still remember. I finally remember Robin Williams just for his comedy, for his acting. Multi-talented guy, and he is missed. Moving on. If schools reopen now, oh my God, this is going to be a fight over COVID, and if not, it's interesting. My homies and I pull up in to present a group project, wear a damn mask. If schools reopen now, there won't be much teaching, but a lot of cleaning, and teachers will be like Cinderella. If schools reopen now, class photos will look like this. So at least this is kind of a funny hashtag, I guess. People are showing their whatever. If school reopens now, when the class clown starts coughing as a joke. Okay. Pretty funny hashtag. We'll move on. Let's see here. Yo-ho. That's gotta be yo-ho. What the hell is yo-ho? Like AOC, I believe poverty will be the root cause of crime. I wonder why Rep Yoho hasn't accosted me on the Capitol steps with the same sentiment. Okay, Representative Ted Yoho, Florida, reportedly got into a confrontation with AOC in which he called her disgusting and concluded by saying, fucking bitch. Okay, that kind of confrontation hasn't ever happened to me, ever, Ocasio-Cortez said about Yoho's unusual personal confrontation. I've never had that kind of abrupt, disgusting kind of disrespect levied at me. Come on. Come on. Oh, Walter, stop. The fascist party is feisty this month, but it comes up short when an unarmed Representative Yoho fights a battle of wits with AOC. Overmatched, the punk from Florida had nothing left but a misogynistic curse. Pro tips: when you're cursing at AOC, you're losing. I can imagine what a conversation with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would be like. Okay, that's why he's trending. He called Ocasio-Cortez a fucking bitch. Okay, it's Tom Cotton's trending. All the Republicans are trending today. What did Tom Cotton do? Tom Cotton's words in a policy op-ed make our journalists physically unsafe. Also, New York Times. Yeah, this is because they're. Yeah, the New York Times is going to publicize Tucker Carlson's home. But hey, Tom Cotton's words in a public policy op-ed make our journalists physically unsafe. I don't really know. Tom Cotton really just compared protesters in Portland to Confederate insurrectionists. While destroying federal property is certainly not okay to compare them to those individuals who killed Americans in order to protect their rights to own slaves is such garbage. Well, okay, what is their killing of Americans compare to then? Huh, Miss Krassenstein? Brian Krassenstein, or his uglier twin brother, who tweet under the name of one of their wives, Miss Krassenstein. Tom Cotton comparing peaceful Portland protesters to traitors in the Confederacy who killed thousands of Americans. No, the same Confederacy, that legacy they're trying to fight tooth and nail. Go fuck yourself. Fighting tooth and nail to preserve. Okay, so Tom Cotton's got the he's got the lefties pissed off for saying that. Okay, moving on. Larry Householder, anything Liz Cheney's trending. Oh God, why is Liz Cheney trending? Things are getting heated at House GOP conference meeting right now. Matt Gaetz and Thomas Massie both got on the mics and went after Liz Cheney for backing Massie's primary opponent per source in the room. Okay. Liz Cheney apparently took on the entire Freedom Caucus in what was supposed to be a private conference meeting. Multiple powerful players in the Ohio GOP, including the Speaker of the State House, were charged in a massive bribery scandal. Okay. It's funny we never talk about the Democrat scandals, but they love to talk about the right scandals. And believe me, there are many. Anything else in here that I really need to read? Yeah, the national anthem. Giants, 3 players took a knee during the national anthem. That's why that's trending. Michael Bennett thinks the NFL is starting to wake up. Oh, Michael Bennett was one of the people who started the kneeling thing after Colin Kaepernick started a kneeling thing after his contract dispute and then changed it to Black Lives Matter. Okay. Let's see. Mark Cuban. Oh gosh. National anthem. Mark Cuban says the national anthem police are out of control. Yeah, he got into it with Ted Cruz. I don't have time for that. Let me just do this. I'm gonna check the DM here, and thank you, Prospero. Okay, so the New York Times tweets. New York Times does not plan to publish Tucker Carlson's residence, which Carlson was aware of before his broadcast tonight. Were they? Huh. Stargazer, our friend Stargazer Knight says, Russia, Russia, Russia. Get another song. This one's over. Found your shoes, New York Times. Well, Portland seems like a good example of what will continue to happen when the right has power. Really? Wait a minute. What? That's a reply to this? What power does Portland have in Portland? The right have in Portland? What the hell are you talking about? Oh, that's replying to someone named Sir Stephen somebody. Interesting. Did they backtrack or did they really do it? Interesting. Thank you, Prospero. All right, gang, I got to go. I got to call it a day. But thank you for being here today on the Morning Night Live as I don't look at you. We're here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for my friends outside of the United States. And if you'd be so kind before you leave the room, please hit the like button. That helps. They say it helps. 45 people here, 28 likes. Let's get that up to at least 40. I mean, I know some of you like watching the show or you wouldn't come here so often. So hit the like button, punch it, hit it, elbow it, kick it with your big toe or your knee before you go out the door. And if you want to do donations or super chats to the show, you can do that through the Streamlabs link in the description down below. Also, go to PDawgNight.live and get your own exclusive. Now, I don't have mine yet. I ordered it. I have this cup today with my reparations coffee. But pretty soon, I'll be drinking my coffee out of my 2020 FFS cup exclusively at PDawgNight.live in the merch link at the top of the page. All right. I got to go. Hello, Ray Damiette. Oh, you missed it. But you can watch the replay. Hi, Hate Camel. That's it for today, people. I got to go. My name is PDawg Night. And I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Have a fantastic day. Hey, this is PDawg Night, and thank you for watching today on the PDawg Night channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comments section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawg Night, and I'm out of here.